Welcome everyone to another awesome class that we have at the Primal Trust Academy and Community. And today I'm joined in person
Yay!
with Josette Tkacik. And some of you know who she is. We have her featured in our mentorship class 3 as one of the examples of self-healing with living your truth. Josette has an amazing story and has been literally deemed a medical miracle of self-healing from rheumatoid arthritis. And I'll have you share a little bit about that in a moment. We're literally here in person just outside of Santa Barbara, California. So I'm really excited to get to be in your energy and so grateful that you would share with our community. Again, she always has amazing pearls of wisdom. So definitely listen in and welcome.
Thank you, my little sister here. Thank you. Hi, everybody. We're gonna.
Yeah, just the voice. It does. You have to speak loud because it won't.
Hi. No. Good morning, everybody. At least it's morning here in Santa Barbara. Hope you are all doing well. My name is Josette, and most people know me as a crazy, successful Zumba instructor. Crazy being the primary word. But my success started really on the heels of my diagnosis of RA. I was a former dancer at Joffrey. I'm a Juilliard graduate, and I was hit with sudden onset advanced rheumatoid arthritis in 2011, where I was not able to walk or function at all on my own. My left elbow fused within a week, actually right before I got my diagnosis. It happened really quickly. And the doctors said that my numbers were so high that they were worried that I was going to go rapidly into a wheelchair because my joints were attacking themselves pretty quickly. Many of you are dealing with chronic illness, so you know that there's a list of prescriptions that are given or told. And my whole thing is my son was 2 and he was still nursing. And they told me that I had to forget about nursing, forget about dancing, forget about doing a lot of stuff. And it was a lot for me to handle. And I ultimately made the decision to try and figure out another way. Mostly because my son, I couldn't not nurse him, and I couldn't, to be honest with you, deal with the situation with the side effects of all the medications that they were giving me. I was just in a lot of confusion and in a lot of pain and in the dark night and all of that good stuff that we all end up having to go through. Long story short, I did take that other path. I took a different path. And I found all the tools, or at least some of them that serve me, that Dr. Kathy is so eloquent at teaching. And I started dancing as a disabled Zumba instructor, mostly because it was the only thing that got me out of bed. I couldn't get out of bed. And it was the one thing that forced me to get out of bed. And I just swayed from side to side. And I didn't move. My husband actually carried me into the classroom. And then I hid my injury from people by putting capsaicin. Do you know what capsaicin is? It's many of you may know capsaicin. It's made with chili peppers, and it's a spray that you put on your joints. So it not only numbs your joints, but it makes them so fiery hot that you can't feel any other pain, because it's kind of like, you know, when you've got an arm injury and you hit yourself over the head, your head hurts more than your arm. And it allowed me to kind of function. But I didn't take any of the drugs. I went on that different path, and one foot, moment by moment, healing by healing, day by day, I healed. And a year in, I was completely symptom-free. And in my class, there was a doctor. She was the head of internal medicine here at our local hospital. And she said, I need to take your blood. I need to find out what's going on. And she did send it to UCLA, and they declared me a medical miracle. There was actually NED, no evidence of disease at all.
Wow.
In my system. And it's been that way now for over a decade.
What was that moment like for you when you had one, identity being given to you of being, diagnosed with this incurable disease, and then it's gone? Like, did you already believe it was gone when it?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. I didn't really care about the blood work. When she said, "Oh, you're a medical miracle," I kind of was like, and then let me get back to my life now. Like, it was more for her than for me, because I had already removed myself from needing proof of anything from anybody. My journey was such an internal one that I knew the first day I was able to wake up without pain, that it was gone. I knew it.
Wow. Wow. That's incredible.
And I haven't stopped dancing since.
So you're still teaching Zumba?
I teach what Zumba has named the world's most well-attended Zumba class. It's pretty crazy. And yeah, I'm out there.
Like, how many people? Coming. Yeah, I want to come to your class. How many people are coming to your classes?
Well, we're still recovering from COVID. COVID kind of, as it did with all of us. But yesterday we had 65. So we normally were around 150 a class. Me. And then Saturdays were about 100.
And you're teaching them almost every day of the week?
5 days a week.
5 days a week. Wow. And you've been doing that for how many years?
Since 2011.
Can you imagine getting to that point where you're literally dancing every day? That is so incredible. And what I love is that Josette many of us in here, we went down the path of, we get this diagnosis and then we get put in the brain retraining world and nervous system healing world. She didn't have that. That was not something that you did, but you kind of did it in your own way. In fact, you just described that when you finally met Dr. Joe Dispenza and you heard what he did, you're like, wait, that's exactly what I did.
Yeah, it's amazing. He could put it so eloquently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell us
the process.
Tell us more about the process, and then take us into, we're going to talk a bit about the inner work and the hero's journey, which she's so great at speaking about. So tell us about the process of getting this diagnosis, being debilitated, and what you were inspired to do to pull yourself out.
Whew. Well, it should be said, and honestly, you guys, I'm so privileged to be able to sit and talk to you guys, because I love this. It looks like family. I feel like I'm sitting down to a family reunion.
Yeah.
What beautiful people. I didn't know when I made the decision that I could heal. I honestly didn't know. But I think part of my journey was, this is where the rubber meets the road. I was raised Christian. And, there's a lot of things in the Bible that I can do all things through Jesus Christ, which strengtheneth me. And as you think, so shall you be. There were a lot of things that I fell back on, and I'm not a fanatical Christian or anything like that, but there were these things that were perhaps part of my programming, but I kind of said, well, wait a minute, what's real and what's not real? And I need to know now. So part of my journey was that process of, I've got to prove to myself what I'm capable of doing. Number one. And the biggest thing was my son. I think that if it was just me and my husband, I would have been happy to lose the 15 years love off my lifespan that they say the drugs do, and done what the doctor said. But my son, I couldn't honestly look at my son and know that I was gonna lose 15 years with him. I couldn't. I still can't. So that was probably the big pull. Dr. Michael Beckwith talks about having a vision pull you out of the darkness. And my vision right off the bat was, I just need to be a great mom for my son. I need to play with my son. I need to be able to push him in a stroller and not be in pain. And make sure that he's not pushing me in a stroller.
Yeah.
That was the big one, because he was just 2. So my the beginning was just for my son. Everything was for my son. And it was creating, the entire journey was based on that love, which was super strong.
That's so beautiful.
Still is.
And as she was describing this, I said, that's what we try to do in brain retraining, is start to visualize that which we are rewiring towards. And without you having any science of neuroplasticity under your belt or any of that training, you knew that you needed a stronger vision to pull you, a reason why. And so tell us about how you started to teach your body differently than it was manifesting in this disease. What are things that you did? Of course, you danced. But tell us a little bit more about how you went on that journey and then how it led into an inner journey.
Well, yeah, I think understanding how I got to where I was, there was a huge piece of this puzzle was I have this ridiculously painful disease. I mean, chronic illness is extraordinary. It takes the life out of you. I mean, you know this, many people know this, the pain, it's hard to think about anything else when you're in physical pain because it's horrific, right? So I really wanted to know what was causing it. So that was a huge part of my journey. And I recognized that there was physical issues, that there was, leaky gut, which nobody ever talked about leaky gut to me, but I found out about gut health, and I found out about heavy metal poisoning, and I found out about all this other stuff. So the first thing for me was cleaning my diet up, which wasn't a big deal because when you're in a lot of pain, you'll do anything to get out of the pain. So that was step one. And then the second thing was, what was the emotional stuff that caused, because it's not just food. I think that you can eat organic green your whole life, but if you don't dig deeper and get to the emotional stuff, that you're not going to heal. So then it was peeling away the layers of my programming. I didn't know it was programming, but there was triggers that was an extraordinary amount of negative emotion that was happening to me that I needed to to process and look at. So my first process was my dear husband. I told him, you are cut off the hook. I love you, but we fought a lot during this time. And I said, while I'm healing, you're right at every argument. He looked at me and he's like, wait, what?
So wait, you said you're right.
I said, you're right. I said, I don't give a rat's, excuse me, to win a fight with you because I'm in like my own fight right now. And so anytime you come in with, okay, there's junk in there, or I have too many dresses, or whatever you want to argue about, you're absolutely right. You can have it, because what's important at the time was for me to take my energy and my focus and focus on healing. So he loved that. He totally loved that.
So you just surrendered your ego
I
there.
surrendered everything. And I said, you're no longer responsible for anything that happens to me. And he loved that.
Oh my gosh.
I said, you don't have to make me happy. Don't make me sad though. Like that was like, don't come in and bring your own trauma, because I'm trying to heal my own. And just say, look, I'm in this boat on my own. It's kind of one of those things with healing is you can't take everybody with you on the journey. The journey is for one. It's yours and yours alone. And when you get across the river, then you can lay out your bridge, but you got to cross that river on your own.
Oh, I love what you just said. That metaphor, the journey is your own. You've got to cross the river on your own. And when you get across, lay out the bridge for others. Did you guys get that?
Well, and that's what we're all doing. I think that we all have a story that we're all in this together. We all have a story. My story, I didn't want to talk about for the longest time because I was so afraid people would think I was a quack, talking about healing naturally. And I shook my booty until I shook off a disease. But now I recognize that my healing and my journey has nothing to do with me anymore. I'm living it. I'm there. I'm on the other side. I know the divinity of all of us. I know our capacity. I know because I lived it, and I look at everyone and I say, you divine spark, you gorgeous soul, you have no idea how powerful you are. And now I feel a responsibility. Many people have come to me and asked me to help them. And that's kind of where I started speaking a little bit more about it. But from my end, I'm dancing and living a great life, but it's for other people that I see suffering that I want to speak and talk about. And I do it with an enormous amount of humility and an understanding that we all have the same capacity. I'm not an anomaly. And I feel like I went off the path there.
No, it's great. How did you, okay, so all of us in this room, we know on some level that our emotional reactions, the way our programming, first of all, real quick, what would you describe as programming? What does that mean to you?
Programming is, and I had a lot. This is yerba mate, in case anybody's wondering. I'm not sipping any crazy stuff. It's just tea. My programming, and I just gave this example. I'm teaching a course for Daily Ohm right now on becoming your own hero. But one of the things that I talk about is there's an incident that I remember when I was 6 and I was going out for the soccer team in my first grade class. And I was so excited because I had danced, but I had never done any sports. So I went out there. I could not kick that ball. I think I fell like 3 times. And the coach came up to me and said, you know what, Josette, go sit on the bench and watch the other kids and see how they do it. And it seemed insignificant at the time, but from that point forward, I never, ever, ever attempted a sport. Because in my mind, it was, you're just going to get sent to the bench because you're no good at it. You're just not good at it. Now, that's the thought process of a 6-year-old girl. It carried with me my entire life. So my programs were like that. They were there for a long time. That's what I thought about programming. Heartbreaks, hurts. Again, some of them seemed insignificant at the time, but they weren't. And that onion, I don't think ever finishes getting peeled. I'm still peeling away those, some of them huge traumas that you can name and you can identify. Others, again, that were subtle, but that laid a path for you.
So you're describing what we often describe in our work as parts that get created, which is a memory structure, a belief, an emotion, and a behavior. So the memory was that event that created a belief that I'm not good at sports, an emotion that probably is like, I'm afraid to even try, and a behavior is I don't try. And then that program sticks with us our whole life. And this process of self-healing is finding the programs, the memory structures, the beliefs, the emotions, the behaviors, opening them up and looking at them and deciding differently if they're not serving us.
Beautiful. And I think, many of us don't recognize that we take our cues from those programs and we make our choices from those programs. And we literally design and curate our life based on thoughts, ideas, and feelings that aren't even ours. I mean, that one example that I just gave belonged to the coach of my first grade class. It wasn't mine. I could have been amazing at soccer.
Yeah.
Maybe not amazing, but I could have been. And that may not have, but it wasn't mine. And so part of my healing was to really start to go inward and go, who am I? Who am I without my cultural programming, without my family programming? I'm the product of a divorced family. So there's a lot of elements that we all have. I mean, we all have the culmination of our life is who we are. That's kind of what develops our personality. So obviously that all of that and the things that we've learned, you can't take them away, but you recognize what's authentically yours and what doesn't serve you. Basically what I ended up doing is I asked myself, does this serve these emotions, these cues, these choices, do they serve my highest good and who I want to show up in the world as? Because if they don't, then I had to go through and go, let's replace them with something else and let's do something different.
What I think is amazing is that most of you here know that a lot of the chronic illness is due to programming our emotions, our reactions. We know it, but we don't choose to do the things that we need to do to live differently. We don't choose to say to our spouse, "You're off the hook. You're always right." How did you choose? I mean, how did you choose to get past the ego and its ways of being in the world and literally humble yourself enough to heal?
Nothing in this is easy.
Mm-hmm.
Look, I mean, change is challenging. Every minute of change is challenging. It's not a walk in the park. Becoming who you are meant to be and letting go of the old coats and the old skins is a process that is going to challenge every aspect of your life, everything. And there were days that I didn't think I could do it. And I didn't know really what I was doing. I didn't know if it was going to work.
Yeah. How did you know this was going to work?
I didn't know it was.
We're telling you guys
Yeah.
this works, but you didn't have a program telling you this.
But I knew I had to do something because, and again, I'm driven by pain in the back and by a vision of a future in the front. So I'm either going to live with this chronic pain or I'm going to do what I can to change. And again, it's not easy, but it's certainly not easy to live in pain and it's not easy to live in despair.
Mm-hmm.
So, again, it's about finding the hero inside of you, finding the guru inside of you. It's not looking outside. I had a lot of guides. I wish I had Kathleen. Where were you?
I was sick in bed too.
Where were you? I listened to a lot of, healing, like Dr. Abraham Hicks was like a big deal for me back then, where I just listened to, there is a possibility. There's another way. There's another way. But again, it's the way that we find inside of us. There's nothing outside of us that will do it. The journey is an inner one.
So speaking of inner journey, what is the inner journey? What is that?
Well, it's recognizing what serves us. Like I said, it's recognizing that we have the choice every moment to live with intention. Mm-hmm. It's getting specific for me on what my intention is. I ask my husband once a week now, what do you want and why do you want it? What do you want and why do you want it? Because it helps us live intentionally every moment. I was not doing that. I was kind of going, oh, this is happening over here and this is happening over here and ow, this happens over here. And it was a very chaotic existence. And now we are really fine-tuned at what do you want and why do you want it, so that we live our beautiful gifted life. It's a gift that we're here with intention. So the inner journey is, for me, recognizing that you have the power to do that, and that you peel away the things that don't serve you. I mean, a lot of us have, again, the trauma. I think it's the negative emotion. It's recognizing the blocks that stand in the way, the seemingly walls that all we have to do is push them aside, recognize them with love and compassion and self-nurturing and with intention. Yeah.
And if you were to teach sort of a structure or a process, if they're listening and like, okay, how do I get aware of what I need to do next? Like, well, do you have a recommendation of how to start the inner journey from the way that you took it?
Yeah, my process it started with journaling. Journaling is a beautiful process to write down, some major, for me, like kind of what I used to do is I used to write a timeline from the earliest I could remember, pivotal moments in my life, and where they might have changed the trajectory of my journey. And if those moments were things that I was still making choices from. When I started to understand programming, again, this was something that I did just out of the blue, but for me, that was a huge part of my inner journey and inner work, was to kind of go back and kind of dig up. You have to reveal it to yourself in order to heal it. You don't have to relive it. but you have to recognize it and see it for what it is. So that inner journey and that process of going in and seeing that 6-year-old girl, that beautiful Josette that had that emotion, and kind of, then I would visualize me kind of holding this little girl and going, it's okay. And that doesn't serve us anymore. So let's let this go. And then I love rituals. I'm crazy about rituals. Santa Barbara, and I have to take you right behind where you're staying. There's all this wild sage that the Shumash planted here. And so it grows like crazy. We go out once a week because there ain't enough sage in the world to burn for all the stuff. And I do rituals around releasing and letting go of, so journaling, going through the processes of what trauma hit me, and then having a ritual around releasing it was a big part of my journey. And it made it feel like it was a sacred process, which it is, because it's our beautiful lives. And having that release. And also I have to say the visualizing of playing with my son and dancing again. That was a big thing, is that kind of pulled me forward. That was part of the whole thing, is I would kind of teeter between the inner journey of finding out what my choices were coming from, and also having that vision pull me forward.
I love it. Remember that Rumi quote that we love in Primal Trust, letting yourself be silently drawn by the stronger pull of what you really love. It is the way. And I love that you bring up ritual. We haven't actually talked about ritual in Primal Trust, but it is something that I use and I love. What would you say, can you walk them through like how to do a ritual of releasing something, just for people that maybe have never done that?
Yeah.
What do they do? How does it work?
Well, it's such a beautiful thing to kind of create your own ritual. I now have a tea ritual with my neighbors, all the women here that live nearby. We do afternoon teas on Sundays, and we make it a ritual. We sit around in a circle, we pour tea, and we burn some incense, and we talk about our lives and our husbands or what happened to us during the week. And it becomes like just a sacred female ritual. I ritualize everything now because the journey is sacred. And so when I burn sage, the Shumash, and many people believe that when you burn sage, it releases negative energy and negative thought patterns back into the earth, back into the universe, where it can then make it into whatever it needs to, whatever, it doesn't matter, it's released from us. So I burn sage, and I am specific about what I'm asking to be released. And so,
do you write it down on a piece of paper?
I do. And I sometimes there are times where I just go out and intention alone, maybe just say it silently. I release this, I no longer, and it's a process. Sometimes it doesn't happen the first time. You have to release it over and over and over again until it's truly gone.
I love that.
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of that also, especially like full moon and new moon. I would write whatever that programming is, that part or that memory, emotion, belief, and behavior, writing it down and showing my subconscious in a physical way, writing it down, maybe even like drawing an image of what it was, and getting some sage and usually burning it as a way of like transmutation, like it's turning into something new. It's not like it goes away, but the energy of that neural network inside of me and the energy of that program gets to be transmuted into whatever the universe wants. And so that's awesome. Yeah, we haven't talked about that.
No, yeah, rituals are beautiful. And I honestly, because I have my son now is 14, he loved doing it. I mean, he loved sage burning time. So it was his time he would whittle away wands from wood, magic wands. And whenever we would do the rituals, he would kind of be part of it and do his little, as a 4-year-old, he would do his little dance around my sage with his wands. And it really became a sacred time for me and for my son. And we just made it part of our lives. One of the things that I kind of realized on this journey is that you curate your own destiny. You curate your own life. We're kind of led to believe that we live in this box and this is how we wake up and then we have breakfast and we do this, but none of that is authentic. None of that is, that's all everybody else's ideas of the way life should be lived. And when I was healing and you lose everything, it gives you the opportunity to redesign and recurate your life however you want it. You know, what is going to serve you, and dream big, you know, think big and think so outside of the box that it's just going to rock your world all the time. And again, it does sound a little woo-woo when I say it, but it's one of the most beautiful things that I feel like I've done for me and for my family is to intentionally curate a life that doesn't include disease. Even now when my husband and I go into, you know, a disagreement, we both will stop and go, how is this serving, you know, what we know to be what we want? Again, what do you want and why do you want it? And how can we navigate this with love and compassion? And that's, again, it's intentional living from the other side of the river.
You're always an example to me. What we talk about, this adult main personality, you have this capacity to choose and be clear of what you want, which is really such a gift that you have. And a lot of times, for whatever reason, part of the process that we work in primal trust is that people, they can't even find that initially, and they have to develop that neural network in their prefrontal brain of like, I don't even know what I want. I don't even know the kind of life. I don't even know how to find a choice. And you're just such an example of that process. What are some daily commitments that you have to keep? I mean, you've mentioned a few. Talk a little bit more about what a lifestyle of being that your own hero and keeping yourself healthy. What are the daily commitments that you make and how to live?
Well, it's funny because I just want to dovetail off of what you were just talking about. When you say that you don't know, I did that so much. Well, this can't possibly happen to me. I'm in so much pain. There is no way I could do this stuff. I mean, that was a huge part of the process. Again, it's between you and you. You're the only one on this journey. I had to really stop that limiting belief. There were a lot of limited beliefs that I had when I first started. And I hear people, like, even when I tell people, you know, I changed my diet and it was, I can't change my diet. I can't change my diet. I hear that all the time. And I'm like, well, it isn't that big of a deal. You know, I ate fairly well. I just ate different things and they actually ended up being really good. So there's a lot of the process of really doing a gut check on limiting beliefs, where you say, well, that's maybe good for her, but it's not good for me, or they can do that because they're different and I can't. None of that's true. The truth is that you have the capacity inside of you to live an extraordinary life every single day. You have the capacity inside of you to be so much more than what they've made us think that we are. And no matter where you are on this journey, what time of your life you're in, there's always the present moment to choose differently. So I think living healthy is doing gut checks. And again, making sure that you know what you're doing, why you're doing it. And even if you can't say, what do I want, then just do a little bitty step towards what will make you happy. That's also something that I really did. Dancing made me happy. Dancing was my zone. It still is. I could go into that place. And for me, it's like a meditation. I just lose track of time. I'm happy. So I always tell people, if nothing else, just find something that brings you joy. And that energy, I know it sounds a little funny, but that energy amplifies and it grows. And little by little, if you make a commitment to yourself to gift that to your life, to gift yourself joy, then little by little that expands and that grows and it takes over any of the negative stuff. Wow. That's definitely a healthy thing to do, I think.
Yeah, it really is amazing how just a little bit of doing something you love can completely shift you out of what we often call that dorsal vagal state, where you're just sort of shut down just a little bit, when maybe it's even smelling your favorite flowers. And it starts with that. I know I read studies of people with multiple sclerosis where they talk about bringing fresh cut flowers into your home and enjoying them as a first step of bringing beauty in your environment and showing this internal world that our external world has beauty, and just that simple enjoyment starting to reroute the brain's perception of your reality. Yeah, so powerful.
And rewrite the story. I mean, that's what we're all doing, because many of us go, wait a minute, this way I'm living and this way I'm feeling, it's not working. This doesn't work. And the truth is that you have the opportunity to rewrite the story every single moment. It's not a joke. I'm not lying. You have it. It is within all of our powers. And that's probably the biggest message that I came through with is, holy camoli, I didn't know how powerful we all are. I had no idea. And I see it over and over again in the people that I talk to and the people that I see that have healed, you know, that there's so much power in the choices we make, and the our hearts and our love and the joys that we have and the things that are so beautifully our own. Like, I don't, you know, my husband would never dance to make himself happy. He's out in nature. That's what makes him happy. And my brother loves yoga. Yoga puts him in the zone. So I think that the variety and all of that is so beautifully our own as well.
I would love in the chat box for you guys to put what it is that puts you into your joy, to help maybe inspire others who can't think of something, what it is that you love to do, that you know changes your energy field, that you know shifts your state. I'm just curious at, you know, like she said, there's so many different things. And some of you might be having a hard time. So sitting by a tree, scouring the flea market.
Ooh, yay.
Miami, bright colors and dancing, being in nature, makeup and drawing. Love it.
Beautiful.
Nature, hiking, biking, sitting, watching the sunrise or sunset, painting, singing, pebble hunting on the beach, being in nature, sailing, being with furry animals, learning new things, making art, being with animals, floral design, gardening, being in nature, painting and drawing, my garden, walks in nature, figure skating and walking with my dog. Oh, that's so cool. Being with horses. Josette's a horse girl.
Me too.
Love it. And you know, a lot of these things, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them you can do in almost any capacity. Like that was my thing. I initially started being in nature. You guys know that I can just go lay on the grass, look for 4-leaf clovers. I'd also look up at the lavender bushes and watch the bees like buzzing around the lavender. And I'd smell lavender. I'd smell my rosemary bush, and I would just watch nature's way. And it just filled me. And I could do it laying down, or I'd watch the clouds. And I wasn't living that victim. Like, I can't do anything I love because I'm sick. You know, I can't, because yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Well, I mean, and yes, it's not easy.
No, it's not easy.
It's not easy. And I think that love and compassion also has to come into play for yourself. Look, you are a once in a universe happening. There's no other you. There never was. There never will be. And the power of that alone, the power of your uniqueness. You know, we look at these once in 500 years occurrences, you know, in the solar system, or these lunar eclipses. It pales in comparison to you. And we don't recognize that within ourselves. And the minute you recognize it within yourself, you tend to honor that journey within yourself, and then you honor it within everyone else, because you see it in other people as well, whether they know it or not. And it becomes, for me at least, everything, seeking joy, finding little things to nurture this beautiful existence of yours. It becomes almost natural, because you recognize, without ego, you recognize how sacred the breath that you are having right now is.
I love that. You recognize how sacred the breath you're having right now is. Like that moment when sometimes we're so, I love all your.
I don't have a problem shutting up.
No, it's really great. This is exactly what we needed. You know, I think that sometimes when we're so sick, we think we don't even think we are alive, but we are. Like we are alive, we're breathing, we're witnessing, we're like, even with your son, you know, maybe for a while you couldn't do anything, but you could look at him and you could share your energy with him. There is a way to be alive, even when we're so debilitated in some ways, and finding those subtle ways and where you can start. You started, you know, basically, you know, barely dancing,
Barely,
swaying.
yeah, and transcending the pain in a way, but you can transcend the pain inside of yourself. I think there's a way in your heart, in your soul, in the depths. You know, all of this stuff, obviously you're working with Dr. Kathy. It's drinking from a deeper well. And there is joy to be found in your heart, in your imagination, even if you, like you said, you were just laying on the ground. Anything, find it, because it will amplify, it will grow.
And how did you handle, let's say, you know, you're starting to improve, you're going along, and then a setback happens physically. How did you handle that moment and not question everything?
Oh, I questioned everything. I questioned everything. And there were a lot of 2 steps forward and 3 steps back. There's something in the healing process called the Herxheimer reaction. So that's where you start to get better, and then all of a sudden you get worse, only because your cells are healing and it's coming up. Thank God I read about it, but I just would be on my back. And there are the setbacks, they're the emotional setbacks, it's all there, it's all part of the process. But when you also make it a point to respect your process, I didn't know I was going to heal, but I respected the decision. The decision, that's a big word, because when you make a decision to go from this point forward, this is how I'm going to do this. And you're going to get set back, and you're going to fall down, and you're going to hit your nose, and you're going to mess up, and it's okay. That's also part of the process. It's respecting the process, that you do things in your own timing. And yeah, there are days when you just lay on your back and cry, and you feel like it's never going to get better. And I'm here to tell you that that's part of the process. Dang it.
Dang it. I know everybody, you know, wants it to be like this. And, you know, even in our program, a lot of you do this and you're like, oh no, it's not working. And it's like, no, you have no idea what's happening inside of your physiology. Because sometimes as we start healing and our cells start feeling safer, well, then deeper layers pop up, and it can put the cells back into a stress response, and our nervous system into a stress response. Not that we're getting better, but a deeper layer of an old pattern is coming forward.
Yeah, so true.
Yeah.
So true.
Yeah. So that's really amazing. And so your process took you, was it like about a year to get back into the swing of things? Is that?
It was about a year, a little over a year, to completely be symptom free. And then obviously I didn't think about, I was dancing, so I didn't think, and I was playing with my son. Both of those things I have never stopped.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. Last time I interviewed you, I had a few people say to me, well, I can't dance at all, I'm bedbound. So in other words, this whole, you know, threw the baby out with the bathwater. What would you say to the people here who are bedbound and are listening to this and kind of honing in on, oh, she danced, well, I can't do that. What would you say to them?
So close your eyes, and if it's not dancing, just, I would say, make every effort to go inside and create or be in a place that would bring you joy. When I was sick, I couldn't dance either. My husband had to carry me to the toilet. You know, it wasn't until maybe 4 months in and I was changing my diet that I started teaching. And even then he had to carry me into the class. So I understand bedbound. I get that. But you still have your imagination, and you still have your thoughts, and you still have your heart, and your thoughts aren't thinking you. Your thoughts aren't thinking you. You think your thoughts. And that can also make you crazy when you start to really think about it. But if you just take little steps and go, let me dream of sitting by a stream. Let me dream of dancing. And that's what I did. I just put myself in a place where I could close my eyes and really be in a space of peace and joy. And even if it just lasts for 60 seconds is enough. 10 seconds is enough. And then do it again, and then do it again. I find that all of the internal processes are like a muscle. And it's like going to the gym and you lift a weight and you're sore the next day. And then you go back to the gym and you can lift a little bit more, and then you can lift a little bit more, and your muscle grows and grows and grows. So it's kind of taking that, again, the love and patience with yourself to just visualize and to create a beautiful space in your soul.
I see somebody in the chat box said, I dance with my fingers and toes when I don't have the energy yet. That's so beautiful.
There it is.
And what else I think is so fascinating about you is that a lot of us think, oh yeah, maybe I'd love to be a dance instructor or go back and dance. And you actually went back into it disabled, being carried in to teach in front of people. You didn't like fall fully into the victim of like, oh, I'm not fully recovered before I go do this dance instructor thing. You actually went disabled, and now literally you are the most famous, popular Zumba dance instructor in the world, like because you didn't let your limitation define when you were good enough to go be an instructor. Like that's insane. It's amazing.
Well, it's funny. Thank you for saying that. I obviously, when you're doing this, I didn't intend to build a big Zumba class. I was never going to be a Zumba instructor. Like, what? No, I'm a Juilliard graduate. So Zumba was a little, like, I was terrible. Excuse me. But what I did intend to do is I wasn't sure if the doctors were right. And they told me that I had very limited time that I would be mobile.
Wow.
So it was intended as my last chance to dance before I was wheelchair bound. And what hadn't actually happened was it put me in a place where the music started and I would sway from side to side, and it just click, 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 click in my heart, in my soul. It wasn't about self-improvement. It was about self-alignment. All of a sudden, I was who I came here to be. I was dancing and I was who I came here to be. And I was able to, even for just a moment, transcend the pain. The pain was still there, but the feeling was so much bigger. And that's why I say it grows. That feeling amplified every day and grew until it became the dominant feeling.
There's another quote for you that you just said. She's got all these great quotes that I hope you write down later. It's not about self-improvement. It's about self-alignment.
That's a
yeah,
big
you've
one.
got a lot of real
I've
nuggets
got
in
like
here.
Twitter.
I know.
I could tweet these out.
Yes, you could. So speaking of self-alignment, we talk a lot about the true self in here. Josette, to you, what is the true self? What are we aligning to? What is that to you?
Well, I can definitely say it's unique to all of us, that no one has the same alignment. So it's a very personal thing. And I think that when you align with yourself, you align with such a great force of beauty and love. It has to end up with love, but a love that is beyond limitations and beyond anything, that is capable of everything. And I think when you can align with that, you recognize it's inside of you, it's connected to the whole, and it is without limitation. Love is what you're aligning to.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. Someone in the chat box wrote a book of Josette one-liners.
Yeah, I like that. Hey, giving me some ideas.
Yeah, no kidding. You always have wonderful things to say. And so we're going to open up for some questions in a moment, but Josette, tell them a little bit, like you've got this awesome thing coming. So for those of you who might be interested in learning more from Josette, tell them what's coming with your Daily Om. Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I just signed a deal to create. It's the first time I've done a Daily Om course. It's on their platform right now. Daily Om, if you don't know, is a platform of basically all of people like us that are they're into serving consciousness and the greater good and developing tools to help us align with love and really live our greatest life and a purpose-driven life. And I've done a course for them called Soulfire Dance Party, which was based on mostly my live classes. And they came back and said, okay, we don't want you to dance. And I was like, oh, we want you to talk about healing. So I am in the process of creating that course. It's set to launch in October, and it's called How to Be Your Own Hero. And at the same time I'm doing that, I'm also developing a course on my own platform called, well, we don't have a name for it yet, but it's about developing a business that creates impact, not only in your community, but impact in your own life. So it's really about, I feel so strongly, that's the other aspect of me, is that creating a business that was led not only from my heart, but that also created such an impact in the community where I'm just, living my gifts. My gifts are dancing. I know that. I know because it's in my zone, and I'm taking those gifts and I'm bringing it to the community and serving it up, going, here are my gifts, and I'm sharing it with you. And ultimately what I have found is there's been so much healing, not only for me, but for my community. And I have this extraordinary global family with that. And so I'm creating a heart-led business course, how to have that, because I think that the old business models are going to fall away. I think that it has to be about community and each other, and thinking about, just community and living our gifts and with each other, for sure.
I 100% see that. I mean, and that is the new way, is that we all have gifts to share, and that there's a value exchange in that
Amen.
Gift sharing. And that is the new currency, is our true self value being shared with other true self values. And so I love it. And then Josette, for your website, can you spell out your website? I'm going to put it in the chat box too.
I'm sorry, you guys. My husband is, he's wonderful. He's super hot. We've been married 20 years. He's an Argentine polo player. And when I met him, Tkacik, yes.
Tkacik.
When I met him, he said, my name is Josette Tkacik. And I thought, oh my God, how romantic and sexy is that name? And then I saw the spelling and I was like, what is that? And he's like, I said, my name is Tkacik. And I said, it sounded like it was Cacique or something like super. And ultimately, his grandparents immigrated to Argentina from Slovakia. So it's an Eastern European name, and I got stuck with it. And I have many a time thought about going back to my maiden name. So I'm sorry. It's JosetteTkacik.com. Maybe I should just call it Josette, but it is what it is.
Awesome. Well, and then when does your Daily Om course come out?
It comes out in October. There's one there now. And then on my website, there's some free courses. Also, I've done some meditations, and I've worked with a couple of shamans there that are free as well.
Okay. And then do you have virtual Zumba classes going again? Okay.
No. Well, they're not live. I have pre-recorded. I teach in a very big ballroom in Santa Barbara, and the logistics of having cameras follow me is just not easy, because I'm also a maniac. I start on a stage so that people can see me, which is perfect for the cameras, but then I'm really sensitive to the energy of the people in the room. So usually after the second or third song, I'm jumping in the crowd to dance with the people. And that's where it all falls apart. So in the courses and the classes that are online, they've been there with me on the stage for a long enough time to actually follow the songs and the music and
so they're pre-recorded classes online. Live, you gotta come. Which I'm gonna come to one of your live classes. Actually, it's one of my most exciting parts of being here is to go to one of your live classes.
I'm gonna start filming the live ones at least the first 30 minutes, and just make myself stay on this stage.
That would be awesome. I'm sure a lot of people in my community would love to show up to some of your classes.